Hey there, deep divers. Today we're really digging into a story that's not just making headlines, but genuinely shaping thousands of lives right now. We're casting our net, so to speak, into the seemingly tranquil waters of the Palk Strait. It's a place that's both this incredibly rich fishing ground for whole communities and, well, a real hotbed of tension, marked by an invisible line that dictates destiny.
It really is a place of contrasts.
Yeah.
Peaceful on the surface, but underneath, so much complexity.
Exactly. And our focus today stems from a very recent, very stark incident: the arrest and fining of 7 fishermen from Tamil Nadu by a Sri Lankan court. This isn't just a legal skirmish, though. It's a profound human drama unfolding, really, daily. So our mission for you, our listener, is to unravel the intricate layers of this ongoing maritime dispute. We want to explore the immediate human impact, yeah? And delve into the historical roots that make these waters so contentious, examine the broader diplomatic challenges, and crucially, look for potential paths toward a, well, sustainable solution.
Right, because this isn't just about lines on a map.
Not at all. It's about lives, it's about livelihoods, and a shared heritage that's somehow become deeply divided.
And what's truly insightful here, I think, is how that single diplomatic line, drawn back in 1974, the International Maritime Boundary Line, the IMBL, didn't just redefine borders. It fundamentally reclassified an entire community's centuries-old way of life. It essentially turned traditional livelihoods into acts of illegality almost overnight,
Wow.
and inadvertently sowed the seeds for the conflict we're seeing today again and again.
That sense of precariousness,
Ex-
it's truly heartbreaking. But let's dig into the specifics of this recent incident. You mentioned a routine day. For us, maybe less familiar with the daily grind, what does routine actually look like for these fishermen from Rameswaram, and what makes them so vulnerable here?
Well, for them, routine starts long before dawn. You've got a bustling coastal town like Rameswaram in Tamil Nadu's Ramanathapuram district. August 25th, 2025 was, by all accounts, much like any other day. Hundreds of boats setting out, including the one owned by Diarutaya Dixon that was involved here.
Yep.
And this was a common sight, especially since the annual fishing ban had just lifted on June 14th. That always signals renewed hope, a chance to make a living after that enforced break.
Right, so the ban lifts, opportunity knocks, and they head out. But where exactly are they heading? What makes these specific waters so alluring, yet so dangerous?
The lure is undeniably the fish. The area near the IMBL, particularly around the Katchatheevu islet, it's incredibly rich in marine life. We're talking prime fishing grounds, prawns, fish that have sustained communities on both sides for generations. It's simply where the best catch is.
Okay, and that's where the routine turned perilous, I imagine. A boat from Ramaswaram fishing near Katchatheevu. So what happened when they were in these rich but contentious waters?
That's precisely it. While fishing, their boat was intercepted by the Sri Lankan Navy. They patrol those waters very vigilantly. The allegation was clear: crossing the IMBL into Sri Lankan territory.
Just like that. It sounds like a sudden, terrifying shift from normal work to immediate crisis. What were the immediate repercussions for the 7 fishermen on board?
The consequences were swift and, frankly, devastating. The 7 men, A. Dullas, who's 56, L. Silaidan, 26, J. Arul Robert, 53, S. Loilan, 45, K. Arockiya Sanrin, just 20 years old, A. Baskar, 45, and R. Jesu Rajan, 32, they were arrested, taken straight to Mannar in Sri Lanka.
Okay.
And just 2 days later, August 27th, the court there imposed a hefty fine, 4.5 lakhs Sri Lankan rupees. That's on each fisherman.
Each, wow. What does that translate to roughly in Indian rupee?
That's approximately 1.3 lakh Indian rupees each,
Yeah.
a huge sum for them. And if they fail to pay, they face imprisonment, up to 1.5 years.
1.5 years.
And perhaps the most devastating blow: their mechanized boat, valued at around 80 lakh Indian rupees, was nationalized, confiscated by Sri Lankan authorities. Gone.
An 80 lakh boat, just pause for a second, consider what that means. For most of these families, that's not just equipment. It's likely their entire life savings, maybe generations of inheritance or a crushing loan they've taken on.
Absolutely.
Losing that isn't just losing a job, it's losing their entire economic future overnight. That financial devastation. It isn't just an individual tragedy, it's a stark window into a much larger systemic issue, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
To really grasp why these incidents keep repeating, we need to zoom out, understand the deep historical, geographical roots of the Palk Strait's troubles.
You've hit on a critical point there.
Yeah.
The Palk Strait itself, this 137-kilometer-long channel, it's fundamentally a double-edged sword. For generations, it has been an absolute lifeline for thousands of fishermen. from places like Rameswaram, Pamban, Thangachamadam,
Yeah.
renowned for its abundance, supporting entire communities.
The lifeline, yeah.
But that very richness, coupled with how narrow it is, makes it a constant point of contention.
Yeah.
An invisible line creating incredibly visible divides.
So this rich, narrow strait, historically shared, but now a fault line, what was the exact historical moment, the tipping point that changed the rules?
The critical turning point was the 1974 agreement between India and Sri Lanka. This established the IMBL, the maritime boundary. And crucially, it ceded the uninhabited island of Katchatheevu to Sri Lanka.
Ah, Katchatheevu. That name keeps coming up.
It does, because before 1974, fishermen navigated these waters based on tradition, resource availability, generations of knowledge. This agreement fundamentally altered those centuries-old practices. It created a legal boundary where, in their daily lives, none really existed before.
I can see how that would ignite a deep sense of injustice. From the fishermen's perspective, I gather they feel their ancestral rights were just overridden.
Precisely. That's their core argument. Katchatheevu, they say, was historically used by fishermen from both nations for drying nets, taking shelter during storms. They argue it remains vital to their traditional fishing grounds.
Right.
Their contention is that the 74 agreement, while drawing a legal line, didn't fully account for the practical realities of their long-standing practices. It effectively cut them off from areas they'd always fished.
So it's tradition versus modern governance, essentially.
A classic clash, yes.
And it's not just about historical claims or a line on a map, is it? What are the practical, everyday challenges, these unintentional crossings you mentioned?
Yeah, even without any ill intent, it's remarkably easy to cross that line. You're dealing with strong currents, unpredictable winds. And the IMBL itself runs very close to these really lucrative fishing zones.
Okay.
So for someone in a small boat, often without advanced navigation, straying a few hundred meters, it can happen in an instant,
Yeah.
often unknowingly,
Huh.
especially when you're following a school of fish.
Just following the catch.
Exactly. It's a logistical problem compounded by nature itself.
And this isn't about one or two isolated incidents. We're talking about a systemic, ongoing crisis here.
Oh, far from isolated. The numbers are stark. They really underscore the scale of this.
Hmm?
Since the start of this year, 2025, alone, we've seen over 185 Indian fishermen arrested, 25 boats seized.
Just this year.
Just since January. And if we look back at 2024, it was even worse. 554 fishermen and 72 boats detained. And each one of these incidents doesn't just pass quietly. It ignites protests, demands for action from both the state government in Tamil Nadu and the central government in Delhi.
That's a staggering number of lives impacted, which raises the important question. What is the true human cost? Beyond the numbers. Because for these communities, it's much more than statistics.
Absolutely. Beyond the statistics, there are profound personal stories. In Rameswaram, fishing isn't just a job, it's a way of life. It's an inheritance passed down through generations. Imagine your entire family's heritage, their very existence, tied to the sea.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly that connection is threatened, often violently.
And the financial ruin from these incidents, it must be truly devastating.
It is. The loss of a boat, often a family's most valuable asset, can mean immediate financial collapse. These aren't just small vessels. A mechanized boat like the one recently seized, we said, valued around 80 lakh rupees.
Right.
For many, that's an investment made through loans, community contributions. It's their entire economic future right there.
And the fines on top of that.
Exactly. The fines, as we mentioned, 1.3 lakh Indian rupees, each that's equivalent to years of earnings for many fishermen, making payment nearly impossible. And it raises the specter of imprisonment abroad, far from family.
So it's no wonder the community outcry is immediate and powerful. What does that look like on the ground when something like this happens?
On the ground, it's raw desperation. On August 26th, the day before the court ruling on the fines, the families of the arrested fishermen, joined by over 100 others from the local fishing community, they staged a road blockade. Right on the Rameswaram-Madurai highway.
Blocking a major highway?
Yes, disrupting traffic for hours, a powerful display of their frustration and desperation. There was a quote from one protester that perfectly captures this feeling, this clash. "We're not criminals. We fish where our fathers and grandfathers fished. The sea doesn't show us a line."
The sea doesn't show us a line. That really cuts to the core of it, doesn't it?
It really does.
And it's the reason we see Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister, M.K. Stalin, relentlessly pushing for diplomatic action.
That's right. Chief Minister Stalin has repeatedly raised this issue with India's External Affairs Minister, S. Jaishankar, urging immediate intervention. In a letter dated August 9th, just weeks before this latest incident, Stalin specifically noted the constant fear of apprehension faced by fishermen. He highlighted that 61 had been arrested just since the fishing ban lifted back in June.
61 in just a couple of months.
Yes, it really underscores this feeling of abandonment,
Yeah.
despite central government assurances that they're working on it.
And the economic and social fallout, it extends far beyond just the individual families involved in a specific incident, doesn't it? It ripples through the entire community.
Absolutely. That seized mechanized boat. It represents a colossal investment, often through loans, leaving multiple families without income. Think about the young fishermen, like 20-year-old K. Arockiya Sanrin, one of those arrested. What kind of future does he face now?
An uncertain one at best.
Definitely. And the women who manage household finances, they bear such a heavy burden trying to navigate these sudden financial crises. Even the protests, while a crucial form of resistance, they disrupt local economies. Especially in a place like Rameswaram, which relies heavily on tourism too, it impacts everyone.
So these human stories are right at the core of a truly complex diplomatic challenge. We have these competing interests at play. Sri Lanka, on one side, fiercely protecting its marine resources, its sovereignty over Katchatheevu, viewing these IMBL violations as a real threat.
Understandably, from their perspective.
And India, on the other side, trying to balance these crucial diplomatic relations with the urgent needs, the livelihoods of its own citizens in Tamil Nadu. It sounds like a real tightrope walk for policymakers.
It truly is. And past attempts at resolution haven't exactly been shining successes, have they?
Doesn't sound like it.
That 1974 agreement, still a major sore point in Tamil Nadu. There are consistent calls for Katchatheevu's reclamation, or at least renegotiation. Back in March 2025, there was actually a meeting between fishermen leaders from Rameswaram and Sri Lanka.
Oh, how did that go?
Well, it yielded no significant progress, unfortunately. We've also seen the Tamil Nadu State Assembly pass resolutions advocating for retrieving Katchatheevu, and fishermen's associations constantly urging for things like joint fishing agreements, or at least more relaxed patrolling near the line.
So lots of calls for change, but not much movement.
Not much concrete change now.
And it's not just arrests or economic pressure. The situation has, at times, escalated to actual violence.
Tragically, yes. That's the most worrying part. In January 2025, there was an incident where the Sri Lankan Navy allegedly fired near Delft Island, injuring 5 Indian fishermen.
Fired upon.
Yes. India responded quite strongly, summoned Sri Lanka's envoy, lodged a formal protest, calling the use of force unacceptable. I'm okay. Events like that further strain relations, obviously, and they heighten fears dramatically in the fishing communities. It reminds everyone this isn't just a legal debate, it's life and death sometimes.
Absolutely terrifying. So with all these complex layers, these unresolved tensions, what are the proposed solutions? What does a way forward actually look like? We've sort of identified 5 key proposals that keep coming up from experts, from community leaders. Maybe we can walk through them.
Yeah, let's do that. They offer potential paths, though each has hurdles.
Okay, first up, bilateral fishing agreements. Sounds logical, maybe a joint fishing zone around Katchatheevu.
On paper, yes. A clear solution. Shared access to shared resources. But the critical challenge isn't just drawing another line on a map. It's building enough trust, enough political will between two nations after decades of this tension.
Right, trust is key.
And you have to navigate the deeply entrenched economic interests on both sides, too. It's a logistical problem wrapped in a political one, really.
I can imagine the political capital needed for that. Okay, number 2, technology-based solutions. Things like GPS, early warning systems. How viable is that for the average fisherman?
These could be invaluable, definitely, helping fishermen prevent those unintentional crossings. But crucially, viability hinges on cost and access. There would need to be significant government subsidies for small-scale fishermen. Many operate on razor-thin margins.
So without support, it's just not realistic.
Exactly. It's simply not an option for those who need it most otherwise. Plus, you need training, ongoing maintenance, another layer of cost and logistics.
Makes sense. Then there's diplomatic dialogue. We've heard about meetings that haven't quite worked. What needs to change to make talks genuinely productive?
Well, the emphasis here is on regular, inclusive talks. Between Indian and Sri Lankan officials, yes, but critically. These talks must include fishermen's representatives from both sides.
Getting the actual fishermen in the room?
Precisely. Ensuring their voices, their practical realities are heard and central to the discussion. Past attempts often faltered because these grassroots perspectives weren't adequately integrated. So the challenge is moving beyond just high-level policy and truly engaging with the people whose lives are on the line every day.
Okay, that seems vital. We also talked about the immense financial burden. So, number 4, compensation and support from governments. Is this something that can really alleviate the problem, or is it more of a band-aid?
It's both necessary and, you could say, a partial solution. For fishermen who lose their boats or face these huge fines, government aid could be a lifeline, a crucial safety net. And providing robust legal assistance for those detained in Sri Lanka that ensures fairer treatment gives families some peace of mind.
I do.
But it's reactive, isn't it? It helps after the crisis hits. It doesn't fundamentally solve the underlying problem of why these incidents keep happening in the first place.
Right, it treats the symptom, not the cause. Which brings us to the 5th proposal, community engagement. This sounds like a longer-term, maybe cultural shift. How would that work practically?
This involves things like public awareness campaigns in both India and Sri Lanka. The goal is fostering empathy, building trust, highlighting the shared struggles, the common heritage of these fishing communities across the strait.
Seeing the human side.
Exactly. When you can see the humanity in the other side, it often paves the way for grassroots understanding, maybe even solutions. The biggest resistance, though, often comes from entrenched nationalistic narratives, or simply a lack of sustained funding and political will to keep these community dialogue channels open and productive.
It's a slow burn then.
A slow burn, yes, but potentially the most powerful long-term solution if it can be sustained.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we're left with this really clear picture of the core tension, aren't we? This daily struggle of fishermen caught between an invisible line, national sovereignty claims, and the age-old necessary practice of fishing. These incidents, they're not isolated. They're part of a larger evolving narrative, a constant negotiation between tradition and modern borders.
And the Palk Strait, it's more than just water. It really is a shared heritage for communities on both sides. It's worth remembering that. And maybe the thought to leave listeners with is this. When national interests collide so directly with the most fundamental human needs, the right to earn a living, to feed your family, what does it truly take to bridge such profound divides? How do we manage to respect borders while also honoring generations of tradition and, frankly, the desperate search for sustenance?
It leaves us with that complex question, yeah.
Sure.
How do we create solutions that are both just and sustainable, not just for nations on a map, but for the actual people who call these contested waters home?
A tough question with no easy answers.